In this video, we're going to talk about drip torches, how to assemble a drip torch, and then how to disassemble one. We'll talk about how to use a drip torch in a separate video. When we're going to assemble a drip torch, the first one we want to make sure we have is our personal protective equipment on, our regular fire PPE, but we also want to make sure we have eye protection and gloves. The gloves is something that's very commonly overlooked. I see a lot of people bare-handing assembling drip torches, but you don't want to have diesel fuel on your hands when you're eating your lunch. You just don't want that. So we're going to assemble it, do it on the ground so it's stable, and we want to open the big ring first to let out the pressure if there's any built up inside there. So we're going to twist this locking ring off. So it relieves the pressure, set that aside. We're going to pull the spout up out of the can. So this can is filled up to about here. You can't actually see that right now, but we want to let the fuel drain out of the spout so we don't make a mess. So we'll pull the spout out, and then there's this plug that is on that spout. So we're going to take the plug off, and then we're going to screw that plug into the keeper so that in case that little chain gets broke, it doesn't fall and disappear down into our tank. Let's get that threaded on there. And this is a little fiddly when you have gloves on, and a lot of times that is why people take their gloves off. Okay, when you take that plug out and put it in the keeper, you want to look in here in the end of this straw and make sure that there's a filter. There's a little brass screen in there, and you want to make sure that's in there to keep any sediment from going up into the spout and jamming up your drip torch. So when you stick the spout onto the tank, you want to make sure that you want to inspect the gasket. There's a gasket in here that this seats into. You want to make sure that that is there and intact, and then you want to lay that spout down into that gasket. When you line up the spout, you want to make sure that this little curly Q, this is a trap for fuel, you want to make sure that that is opposite of your handle. So you want to make sure those are opposite sides. If it's backwards like this, you're going to have a bad time. You want to make sure that it's opposite, so that way it locks the vapor and keeps the fire from going back into the tank. That is undesirable. Once the spout's on and oriented properly, put your locking ring back on. You want to make sure you don't cross thread it. It can be easy to cross thread. There we go. So we want to lock her down. Again, making sure that that curly Q is oriented and the spout is perpendicular, kind of in line with that wick, so that when the fuel comes out, it drips onto the wick. And then the last thing you want to do is open up your vent. So this little teeny knob here, this connects to a little tube that goes all the way down to the bottom of the tank, so that when you invert the drip torch, that's how it breathes and it gets air. Okay, so that is an assembled drip torch. So now that we've got the drip torch assembled, we can go and use it. We'll talk about that, like I said, in a separate video. But to disassemble it, it is just the same process in reverse. So you want to, again, start with the big ring, and you want to take that off, let that slide, come back. Remember, if you were using this, I have not used this, but this is going to be hot. So you don't want to immediately drop it back in there. You want to make sure your spout and the wick is cooled off before you go back to collapsing it back down. So you take this off, and if you're going to fill it, so let's say that this is half empty, you want to keep all this together. So these drip torches, a lot of times, the ones that are on the trailers are all the same, but you might find yourself in a situation where you're using different manufacturers of drip torches, and they can be different. And so you want to make sure that, especially the pieces that are connecting the spout to the can, they will definitely be different, and they can cause, if you're mixing manufacturers, you can cause leaks, and you don't want that. So you want to just make sure that when you take the pieces off the drip torch, you keep them together. Either keep them like that, or a lot of people will run them through the handle just like that, so everything is together. So then you can fill your drip torch. We'll talk about that in a separate video because I want to talk about fuel mixes separately. So you want to close from small to big. So just like we opened from big to small when we assembled it, we want to close our vent tube first. And then we're going to come back. We're going to make sure that our straw, or our spout, is cooled off. We're going to take our plug out of the keeper, and then we're going to put it back in the plug. Keep the fuel from coming out. And there is a very little gasket on there that you want to make sure that is there and intact, otherwise it's going to leak. So you put that plug back in the spout, and then drop this into your torch tank, and then put the locking ring back on. And that's good to store.